Hey there, everyone. I'm Ryan Woldt, host of the Coffee People and Coffee Smarter podcasts. It's weird to be staring at myself on a screen while talking to you. Before I get started today, I want to shout out Simply Good Coffee Brewers. We have been talking about them for a couple of years. We got one of their countertop machines when they first came out and just loved it. We wrote a review, which I'll share in the show notes. Might be linked on the screen over here somewhere. They came out with the Generation 2 last year, over this last year. We got one to play with. It came with a new thermal pot instead of their old glass pot, which was then heated underneath. And we were really excited about it. And it still brewed great coffee. It still did all the things, but the lid on that pot was not great. And when they asked for feedback, I said, hey, lid's not great. And I think a lot of people did that. And so to their credit, I recently got a box in the mail with this. It's a new lid, better designed, much sturdier, and a little note, which I really appreciated, apologizing for any inconvenience and the mess that may have been made because the old lid was just not as stable and a little not user-friendly. Simply Good Brewers heard their customers and they made a change. They made it better. They sent me this and a bag of coffee and some dark chocolate. Didn't ask for it. They just did it because it was the right thing to do. And I certainly appreciate companies that follow through when they say, "We're here for you. We're going to take care of you." So cheers, Simply Good Brewer. Check out the review of the pot that we made. There's a link in the show notes. We do get a little bit of affiliate money if someone buys one from those links. But that's not really why I'm saying this, although that is nice. I just think it's cool when a company cares about their product and their customer enough to do something at their own cost, at their own challenge, finding all their customers to send them these lids, sending them this little note. And so thank you, Simply Good Brewers. Really appreciate it. Cheers. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee Smarter, the podcast. It's been a minute since we've done one of these. This show, like our Coffee People podcast, is presented by Roastery Coffee Packaging. Find them online at roastery.com. You can find this show on all your favorite platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. While you're there listening to the show or searching for it, please think about giving us some stars or a review or something that makes the algorithm think people like us. We really appreciate it. You can also subscribe to this show on our newsletter at coffeepeoplepodcast.com. This is a new to me studio, and I'm still not quite sure what to do with my hands. I recently caught up virtually with my friend and supporter of the show, Jared Hales. He's the co-founder of Hacea Coffee Source in Anaheim, California. You can find them online at haceacoffee.com. They're a green coffee importer, and on their website, you'll find updated lists of their green coffee, information on how they work with their roaster partners and their farm partners, as well as when they have coffee education classes coming up. They're IRL classes, and I strongly recommend them. Jared has long been one of the experts that I turn to when I need to get a little coffee smarter. Today we talked about cupping planning, moisture content, updates on tariffs, what makes a coffee good, so much more. So you'll find updates and context on that website I mentioned, coffeepeoplepodcast.com. Check that out later. And until then, I hope you got a good cup of coffee at the ready. Enjoy the show. Cheers to getting coffee smarter. Yeah, so it looks like everything's good. Yeah, you were just mentioning Swiss water off the record, but I'm actually drinking a Swiss water decaf right now. They're Burundi Roteca.
Nice.
I just brewed it up for the first time. I mean, it was excellent. It's actually
Yeah.
tastier than the coffee I had this morning that was not caffeinated. So,
Excellent. Yeah, we're actually bringing some of that in. It'll be available end of October.
Well, we should probably talk about something that was on this list, so I have some content to put out before it gets too late. I've been slacking a little bit on the timeline, but I've got like 5 interviews this week, so which is bad planning because it's Major League Baseball playoffs, and I'm fairly committed emotionally as well as physically to the games. I sent you this like list of things.
Yep, I'm looking at it.
Yeah, before we get into talking about any of those, I one thing came up I wanted to ask you about is if have you seen this rebrand for Maxwell House into Maxwell Apartments?
I I haven't looked into it too much, but yeah, I came across my feed, Maxwell Apartments, right?
Right, because nobody can
Uh,
afford a house. I feel like that's got to be the reason behind it. I didn't look into it.
yeah,
Uh,
that's kind of how I interpreted it. It's like, wait a minute, most people don't have houses anymore.
yeah, and I think that was like their thought was like, hey, it's still good for the counter at your apartment, but it kind of just made everyone feel bad about themselves a little bit.
Yeah, it probably should have gone with Maxwell Home or something.
Something like that, or just leave it what it's been since like 1940, whatever. Uh,
Yeah. Well, my
if it
understanding is
works,
that they're not changing the product at all either. It's just kind
no,
of a
just a
different
branding
label of the same
refresh.
thing.
But that kind of brings me, I mean, not changing the product, but the external factors, right, of the world are changing, which is probably a motivator for them to seek out a new audience if their margins are
Right.
tightening up or if you're starting to sell your product at a higher price point than people are used to. Uh,
Right.
you and I talked kind of just for fun back in August when tariffs were really hitting hard. I was just wondering if there's any update. We're talking now in October, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, okay, October.
Yeah, mid October. So
Have things calmed down? Is there any predictability? Is it still just day to day insanity? I know near the end of the year there may not be as much, as many imported deliveries coming in, but
right. So I mean, the landscape of the tariffs has not changed. So
mhm.
it's still insane, but coffee shipments have slowed down. I mean, for us, we're not doing thousands of containers a year. So we really have like peak shipping months, and I think even the large importers would have most of their volume coming in the summer as well. So it was just a lot of shipments related to coffee all happening at once, and then dealing with the insane tariff landscape on top of that.
Sure.
That made it really stressful and just absolutely cash draining. Um,
Do you
we're
do the thing where you don't look at your accounts because you don't really want to know? Like,
no, we look every day. We need to know, but yeah, like customs, the way that they do it is every month they evaluate your shipments and then they just pull the money from your bank account.
oh, like reverse direct deposit.
Yep. Yeah. So
Cool.
if the money's not there, you'd be in a tough spot.
What's like the penalty for not having the money? Are there fines? Do you go to prison? Like, what is it like theft? Like, how does this work? Because like
You
you
know,
don't really know going into it what it's going to be necessarily.
that's a good question. I don't know for sure because I've never, thankfully, have not been in that situation. I mean, if I would imagine there's fines, penalties. I mean, if you just straight up never pay,
Hmm.
they can go as dramatic as revoking your license to import.
Okay.
They may not release any new shipments if you still owe them money, right?
Sure.
So if your business is importing, you're stuck having to pay
Yeah.
timely.
Yeah. I think that would be a really curious thing. I have to think being like the person at the port who's walking around telling people, yeah, you can't have your stuff is like a pretty lonely job.
It's faceless, it just
Yeah.
comes from customs and border protection. So And
Faceless,
we
like
have
they're wearing a mask when they talk to you, or faceless, like you just never see them? It's
you just
emails.
never see them.
Okay,
It's not really coming from a person as much as a agency.
sure.
And then we use a customs broker to make sure that all of our paperwork is in order. So a lot of the communication gets filtered through them.
Okay,
Uh,
that's
so most of the
interesting.
bad news is coming directly from our customs broker, not directly from Customs and
Is
Border
is
Protection.
that customs broker specific to coffee, or do they just anything that's coming through customs? That's kind of their thing, or is that
Right.
it's not a
They'll
job I've heard
do
of?
anything.
Yeah.
They'll do
Okay.
anything. So they are essentially overseeing all of the paperwork
Hmm.
and filing it with customs for us.
Nice.
So we involve them as soon as we have a shipment set up, and then they monitor the shipment and make sure that they're receiving all of the required documents, and then they submit it.
Is there like a, can you go on like your computer and see where your coffee is on the ocean? Like when you're on an airplane and you can see where your airplane is over the
You
ocean?
can, yeah,
Yeah.
you
That's
can.
cool. I'd like to see that.
It
Uh,
is cool.
that always like makes me, I feel like whenever I take a flight and I look at that, if it's over the ocean, I just naturally get more nervous. Not that it matters if we're over land, like because we're 30,000 feet up.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I just think, well, at least like we're going to land on something. Like, I don't know. Well, that's really interesting. I think tariffs are still in the news, but it's not like there's definitely some distraction news going on.
Right.
And obviously, we're all just getting excited about the holidays when none of this matters, and we can ignore it and overspend and overeat and overdrink uh, on everything. Besides that, I had some more specific kind of green coffee questions I sent you, and part of it comes from feeling really dumb at some of the learning sessions at Roast Summit. Um, some of it just comes from my own brain, but I I was thinking about uh, coffee, and one of the things that during this recent experience I was having, we are talking about roasting and what percentage of the coffee disappears essentially during the roast process. Like if you start with
Right.
X number of grams or X number of kilos, and you end up with 5%, 10%, whatever percentage of loss is usually due to moisture. It made me wonder, how wet do you look for as a green coffee importer? Is that something you're considering when you're buying? What moisture content is ideal for when you buy it and it's over at the farm somewhere, assuming there's going to be some change maybe between there and then when you get it, and then when you get it and give it to the roaster and make sure there's enough moisture to go through the roasting process
Right.
without getting blown
Yeah,
out.
the moisture is all tracked in the coffee samples all the way until it gets here, and then, like you mentioned, we do measure it throughout the year to see how it's holding up.
Hmm.
Um, there is a very specific range for coffee. The range is 10% to 12%. That's the um, essentially the water percentage in the coffee, right? So we call it the moisture content.
Hmm.
Um, Something else that's related to that is also called water activity. So this is based off of water's tendency to evaporate open air at sea level, right? So
Okay.
then there's a measurement created based off that. So water can evaporate faster or slower than that, right?
Hmm.
Depending on the conditions. So so there's two things that we look at. There's water activity and moisture content.
Interesting.
The moisture content needs to be in a specific range, like I said, 10 to 12%, to be considered safe for storage and export. If it's too wet, then the coffee can grow mold,
Mm,
or it has a lot more microbial activity.
sure.
Um, if it's too dry, then the seeds actually taste kind of stale or dry. Like a dry coffee, usually comes along with an old coffee.
Okay.
So as coffee gets stored, assuming it's in relatively good conditions, it will continue to dry out. Now, if you like stored it in a rainstorm for a year, then it would probably get wetter. But in most warehouses, it dries out.
Sure. Even if you're using like a Grain Pro bag or something like that.
The Grain Pro bag definitely helps. What I'm seeing in like well processed coffee. So let's say coffee with good water activity numbers.
Mm-hmm.
The moisture loss is like less than 1% in a year. So yeah, maybe 0.5% in 6 months. So if you have a coffee cup that comes in at 11%, it might be 10% after a year of storage.
So to me, that seems like such a narrow window, 1 to 2%. But are you measuring then in like tenths of a percent, or like what's
Yeah,
does that
exactly.
feel like a big, like does 2% seem like a big range to you, or am I just imagining it differently?
It's a pretty big range, and when you're roasting coffee, you could feel a 1% difference. Even
Mm-hmm.
like a pretty inexperienced roaster could probably feel that. And like you kind of hinted at, as you're roasting the same coffee all year, you'll probably notice your data start to change towards the end of the year as the coffee continues to dry out.
Sure.
So we do use a tool to measure it to the 10th of a %.
Wow.
And that's also being done. I mean, that's being done at the farm level and at the mill, wherever the country is that the coffee's coming from. So, and everyone is on the same page with these targets. So if a farm delivers like wet coffee, they may get paid less for it, or it may be rejected by the mill, depending on what the parameters were.
Is that built into your contracts then? Like, I assume, is there language for that about the moisture content, or is it more of a hey, this is how the industry works? Yeah, checking. Because to me, the thing one is it seems like it's something that almost falls on your shoulders as the green importer more than maybe the roaster, because the roaster isn't dealing with it for that first 2/3 of the trip, right? They're just the last mile. But then
Right.
they have to know to ask the right questions about the
Right.
moisture content before they purchase.
Right. So to answer your question, yes, it is. There are parameters set in the Green Coffee Association contract rules,
Mm-hmm.
which our contracts are using. Um, so it could, that's a pretty obvious example of where coffee could be out of spec, and like there's legal grounds to reject it or
Sure.
go to arbitration or something. Um, their range is actually bigger than the range that I gave you. The range I gave you is the Specialty Coffee Association recommended
Okay.
range, right?
Yeah. So there's a little bit more of a gap for legal reasons, but that's kind of your target, your
Right,
target range.
right.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen much coffee arrive outside of the range. I mentioned processing earlier. It's really about processing and how the coffee is dried. So like really well processed coffee that's dried really slowly and evenly will
Mm-hmm.
have that more stable water activity.
Okay.
So the water stays in the seed in a stable way for longer. And then that is also related to quality shelf life. So if a coffee has high water activity, it loses moisture really quickly, and the coffee will go stale in taste pretty fast.
See, this is why I like talking to you, because I feel like I can follow along on this the way you explain it. And I know you to be a wildly intelligent coffee person, but you can talk down to dum-dums like myself. And I really am grateful for that.
You asked the right questions too.
I'm going
Makes
to
it
take
easy.
off the hat here. Just see how shiny my bald head gets in this. I've got a sunlight above me. It's
Oh,
amazing.
nice.
No, I don't like it. I'm putting it back on.
You also brought up weight loss during coffee roasting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's actually not all water. I mentioned the number being 10 to 12%, right? But the amount of weight loss in coffee can be as high as 20% in a dark roast.
Okay.
So it's not all water that's being lost. And there's still some water content in the roasted coffee when it's finished.
Hmm. Uh, I'm not even going to ask today what the other percentage is. We're going to get to that at some point. Thinking about it from the roaster, if I'm like a new roaster and I call up you at Hacea, or I'm on your website, haceacoffee.com, and I'm thinking about buying from you. And so we set up a cupping. I, I'm wondering how you do a plan for that. You recently posted a picture, or I think Siri did, our friend Siri Simran Khalsa from Color Magic, about a cupping she did with you, which I was really excited about because I've been wanting that to happen for a long time. Two great coffee people in the same area. But how much does you setting that cupping up for someone like Siri change based on the roaster you're working with, or based on, they focus on dark roasts, which is becoming a little
Right.
bit more popular, or, how much of that background do you get before you set that up? And then how much, or do you tailor it, or is it always kind of like, no, we do it the same way every time?
So our protocol doesn't change. We use the same roast profile and go the same ratios, the same water. Everything with the actual brewing and prep of the coffee is the same, no
Mm-hmm.
matter who we host. But we bring in, I don't know, maybe at least 200 different coffees a year. Um, And so when we have a client come visit us, like Siri, right? We can't put 200 coffees out, right? So it's just not practical. So we always kind of curate a list for each roaster who's coming to cup with us. And really what I like to do is first have a phone call or a meeting to kind of check the pulse on what people are liking, things like price target and obviously flavor profile target. That all comes into consideration. If someone's target price is $5, I'm not going to put the $10 coffee out, right? Maybe just to show them what they're missing. Maybe one.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so we have kind of a, I don't know, discovery meeting, you could call it, where I ask some questions about what they're currently buying and
Mm-hmm.
what they like, what they don't like, and from there pick from our list of availability to match them up with the right coffees. The
Sure.
goal is if we put 10 coffees out for a cupping, whoever is joining us has a really hard time picking which one they want.
Oh, so that's a good thing? I would think that'd be a bad thing. I almost was going to ask if you've got, let's say, 5 coffees to cup, if like 3 are good and 2 are like throwaways on purpose.
No, I
And
do set some bookends though. Like I mentioned,
okay.
I will put like a
Yeah.
exceptional or something crazy, something really loud, and then I will also kind of put our baseline, no matter what, kind of like our lowest tier coffee,
Hmm.
just so that people have the context of
Sure.
the qualities.
Yeah, the hard part, the risk of doing it, what I said, is that then they pick the one that's really bad. Like
I
this
mean,
was
if we
supposed to
bought it,
be.
then it shouldn't be too bad.
Okay, fair enough. Uh, do you want? So I would assume then, if somebody buys from you once, it's easier than to set it up the next time around, right? Because you're
Correct.
starting
Yeah.
to get. I assume you have like a database of like notes about each of your clients and like what their preferences
Yeah, so we call it calibration, right? So even when we send samples out to roasters who are, let's say, out of state,
are. Hmm.
um, the biggest thing that we are always asking for is just feedback. Even if you're not buying coffee, just give us some feedback, because then we can calibrate with you, and maybe we just sent you the wrong samples, right?
Sure.
So we're constantly calibrating with roasters, not just in like scores. That's where calibration gets thrown around a lot, is in like the actual cupping score. But beyond that, just more looking at preference and profiles and even pricing and all that. So I have clients I've been sourcing coffees for over 10 years now, and they don't even try samples from me anymore. They just, because we're so calibrated, right? So they feel comfortable calling me and asking me certain key questions about the coffees,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll make recommendations, and they'll order the coffee, and we'll ship it without any samples, and they'll receive it and be very happy.
I've been the person on the other side of that in the beer world, where you get to a point where you trust somebody's opinion and their taste,
Right.
and they know what you like as well to sell. And I can say that it's always such a relief, because as fun as it is to try a bunch of new coffees or beers or whatever, it's still like part of your job. And when you're doing it all the time, at some point you're just like, if it's one thing I can take off my plate where I don't have to do, it saves that time and that effort. And also I can just drink something I know I'm going to like.
Right. And a lot of small roasters, they're run by people who wear a lot of hats, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe they don't have the equipment to roast a tiny sample, and yeah, it takes time. I budget around an hour per sample. So if
Oh,
someone is sending
wow.
10 samples, I'm budgeting 10 hours for
Holy
myself.
cow. That's,
And it's about that much time. I mean, to intake the coffee, right? So we have to make sure that all the details are very accurately saved,
yeah.
right? So we're not buying the wrong coffee by accident. And then we do the physical check. We have to roast it, we have to cup it, all the cleanup from that, and then the follow up. Giving feedback and getting pricing, whatever. It's at least 45 minutes up to an hour per sample.
Wow. That's actually a lot more than I would have realized. I wanted to ask, did you see my new mug?
I can't read it.
It's different types of
Okay.
salmon. I found this in a thrift store in Idaho. And
Nice.
I've learned, because of it, I've Googled salmon and learned all about the different types of salmon.
I
So
had
every
salmon for
morning
lunch.
I look at my fish and I feel vaguely calm about the world. And then I put on a raincoat and or a t-shirt and go outside and figure it out. We were talking about contracts earlier, just briefly there. I've never read or looked at a green coffee contract. If I were to get into roasting, or if I were to get into some sort of business where I'm buying green coffee, I'm assuming you have contracts on both sides
Right.
to some extent, but maybe thinking about it more from the roaster's perspective or your relationship with them, what would be some key components of that contract? Is it more about, like, if you already made the decision to buy and then here's our agreement, or are they sourcing through you? Especially now with the unexpected tariff situation, one of the things I would imagine is happening is green coffee importers, in particular boutique ones, or ones that aren't like bringing in thousands and thousands of different containers where they can absorb some of those extra costs. uh, you're planning ahead. You're trying to figure out who's going to buy what before you end up ordering
Yeah. Yep.
it. That
I mean,
was
there's a lot to say there. We started doing a 200 level class that's 2 days.
okay.
And part of the 2 days is about 2 hours of green coffee buying content. And that would include like contract
Mm-hmm.
knowledge and planning.
I'd clarify, when you say 200, you're talking about the coffee education classes that Hacea offers that people can go to. Can they do them virtually yet?
No, not yet. We're playing around with Discord a little
Okay.
bit, but for now, just in person in Anaheim.
Okay.
But yeah, we started offering this 200 level class to kind of continue the education beyond our 100 level class that we've been offering since we started. Um, but to address the tariff specifically, that is contractually a pass-through cost.
Okay.
So we have to front the bill with
Right.
customs, but we are allowed to pass the costs along in the price per pound
Okay.
in a contract. Now we've had a couple of, it requires a lot of planning on both ends. So, we communicate a lot with customers on the current tariff landscape when they're signing the contract. If it's, let's say if it's coffee that's not here yet, we talk a lot about that. And we also talk about what could happen with contracts. And we've had a couple of tough situations, most recently around Brazilian coffee, because the tariff went from 10% to 50%.
Yeah.
With about a month's notice, 6 weeks notice. So we had coffees already contracted on both ends with vendors and with roasters. And we were expecting 10% tariff, right? And all of a sudden it goes to 50. So now we have to come up with 40% extra money. And just to give you some scale, it's like $70,000 to come up with in 6 weeks, right?
Yeah. That should be no problem for a man of the world like yourself.
Yeah.
You don't just plan for 70. Yeah, you don't just plan for $70,000 throwaways.
I should start golfing or something.
Yeah, you'd be better prepared.
No, so we had to call the customers that were contracted on this shipment and let them know that the tariff was going from 40 cents to almost $2 per pound. So their cost effectively went from, let's say, $5 up to $7, just overnight. So yeah, the tariffs definitely throw a wrench in the contract, but there's not much that anyone can do to plan. What we've been saying internally is there's no good plan. It's just, you just have to roll with whatever is happening. But that's tariff specific. There's plenty of other elements of your contract that are really key. And coffee follows these rules, but I've been trying to help roasters understand their other contracts with things like cups or coffee bags if they're not getting them locally made in the US, right? So if you're shipping cups or bags from China and you're not prepared or if you don't have the right terms in your contract, you could get stuffed with a crazy tariff bill. We saw Chinese tariffs go up to 125%.
Yeah, 140, I think, it just announced.
It's radical. So
luckily, nobody makes anything in China anyway, so that's fine.
So like if you're ordering cups, I would order them what's called DDP, delivered duty paid. So whoever's selling you the cups pays the tariff, not you, right? But you can't get that kind of contract with green coffee.
Right.
So knowing those terms, those are related to Incoterms, which are like an international set of rules for contracts. Understanding your Incoterms is super important.
What's that an acronym for? Inco?
I don't think it is. I don't know.
Oh, it's just what it's called.
It's a registered trademark. Someone owns it.
Of course.
So like our contracts with vendors are what's called FOB. So it's free on board. So what that means is the exporter is responsible for all the costs up to the point that it's delivered at the boat. And then once it's on the boat, all the costs are transferred to the buyer.
Which is you. Or,
right.
Whoever's.
Right. So all of our contracts are FOB. So it's fairly simple. But when coffee gets here, a really common thing, even before tariffs, is some importers might sell the coffee ex-warehouse. And in an ex warehouse contract, essentially the seller gives up possession of the coffee inside of the warehouse. So that means that whoever's buying the coffee, the roaster, is responsible for all the warehouse fees, which include like the load out fees, the pallet cost, like the actual cost of the wood, cost of the strap, the wrap, and whatever other fees these warehouses charge to prepare a pallet of coffee for shipping, right?
So then if I'm looking at like a green coffee uh, importers or sellers website, right? And they have, say, do you offer like a catalog? Can you even do that? Because it seems like those, whatever prices you would put into it would
Yeah, so
change.
we just as a company, we decide to do all of our sales as FCA or free carrier. So
Okay.
what that means is we take responsibility of the warehouse fees, and we give up responsibility once it's on a truck,
Right.
right? So we essentially, it's fairly easy to cost in the warehouse fees because it's related per bag or per pound. So we just average those fees into all of the cost per pound and then charge everything this FCA term.
Yeah.
So all roasters have to worry about is the cost once it's on the truck. So anything related to the actual shipping.
Got it. Yeah. I feel like for me, I'd be whichever company is making it the easiest, I'm willing to, to pay for
Yeah.
that because
And
I'm already like getting lost in the number of different, people or things that we're paying for. Um, and not as like a complaint about it because there's all these things that someone's got to pay for. It's just a
right.
matter of figuring out if you're that person or not. And
Yeah. And
I live in
I've seen the
fear.
industry go much more this way where most importers are now just selling everything this FCA term,
Sure.
rather than the X warehouse. Only the larger roasters who maybe have their own warehouse account
Hmm.
uh, are usually buying the X warehouse term.
Well, we've taught everybody in all aspects of their life that delivery should be free, and you should be able just to press a button and then it arrives. And
Mm-hmm.
so when it's not like that, it's that simple barrier to entry, or it's that, oh, well, if one company's doing that and one's not, then who am I going to purchase from?
Right. And
And
it
so
can
it
feel like
forces
hidden
you.
fees,
Yeah, for sure.
So you just get rid of those.
Uh, I have an existential question for you. So I've been thinking about this word a lot, but also how it relates to coffee. This coffee I'm drinking as we talk, the decaf is really enjoyable. I brewed it as a French press because I don't have my grinder. It's in storage and I'm hand grinding everything. And that's like the least impactful on my rotator cuff as a 45-year-old, 44-year-old, something. Uh, but it's really enjoyable. I'm really liking this coffee. And so my question for you is what makes coffee good? Is it from your perspective, are you quantifying it based on quality, on a scale? Is it the experience of it? What is it that makes coffee good for you? That you go, oh, yeah, I'm going to feel good about this today.
Well, as a Q grader, which is about to not mean very much,
Means something to
but
me, buddy.
we're still thank you. We're still in 2025 here, so still the rules. We use that SCA cupping form, right? And we judge 10 different attributes of the coffee. I think what you're getting at here is caffeine is not on that list of things that's evaluated. So caffeine is not anything to praise as far as quality goes. Um, Obviously, it's why a lot of people drink coffee,
Hmm. I
right?
think that's why a lot of people drink bad coffee.
Yeah, yeah. I think right. So to your point, there, it's changing. As
Hmm.
people start drinking better coffee, they're enjoying coffee for a different reason. Maybe caffeine is a perk, no pun intended, but um, they're enjoying for the flavor, they're enjoying for the experience. So I think caffeine is getting less relevant. I mean, we're talking a really small niche, and you can kind of see the shift before our eyes. Like that coffee you're drinking from Swiss Water Decaf, those coffees didn't exist from Swiss Water 5 years ago, right?
Mm.
So Swiss Water Decaf is feeling a demand for producing a better product. Swiss Water Decaf process is the same for a good coffee or a bad coffee, but for so long they're just using really generic, not traceable, large lot commodity coffees,
Hmm.
and so it didn't taste that good. You know,
Sure,
it
but it
wasn't the
didn't have
process.
the caffeine.
It didn't have the caffeine,
So
but it
what
wasn't the
people were,
processing or the lack of caffeine that didn't,
yeah,
that was not hitting the mark. It was just the coffee that was being started with. So Swiss Water made the decision to start this new program, this kind of like sub brand, if you will, of these high end coffees that are decaffeinated, and they taste great. They taste awesome. And so we started carrying those coffees at the beginning of the year, and we've watched people actually get accounts and create new connections by having a much better decaf product than competitors have.
when, and this is a question I should be asking someone at Swiss Water, and I will do that to follow up. But are you seeing, when you remove caffeine from something, caffeine has a bitter taste inherently. Are we seeing these specialty decafs? Are you experiencing that they have kind of a smoother, finish to them, like less of a on that scale of bitterness on that SEA form? Is that a
They
commonality or not something that you noticed?
they definitely taste a certain way.
Hmm.
I think it's more complicated than just less bitterness, because then bitterness is coming from a lot of factors like roasting and brewing.
Sure.
Um, so when we're cupping them, yeah, they feel a little softer, but there's still something about the seeds themselves having to go through the extra processing, right? So I mentioned in our earlier conversation, like water activity and moisture content, right? These
Hmm.
numbers are changed during decaffeination, so that's having an effect on the coffee seed. That I mean, I'm not exactly sure what is happening chemically, but tasting it, you can taste that they have been decaffeinated.
Interesting. I mean, they basically just like let them go swimming for a while, and then somehow they get, it's all magic.
Uh,
I would say the existential part of the goodness of a coffee, though, kind of comes back to that person 5 years ago who was drinking that decaf coffee, even if it didn't taste that good. There was something about having it, the experience of having it, that made them a part of their routine, or there was something. And so for me, yesterday, I was wandering around in this new town that we're in, my wife and I, and we got a cup of coffee just to walk around with. And I can't be certain, but I think that I enjoyed the taste of that coffee more because I was enjoying the experience of my wife and I being in this new
yeah,
place.
yeah,
And I find that when I'm sitting at home in the morning drinking a coffee or seven every morning, I'm so much more critical of the coffee. I'm more focused like it is an SEA tasting form or a cupping form of some sort, which I think are two different things personally. But uh, than I am if I'm out and there's this extra component of the experience. So I guess as a Q grader, you should have a different perspective. Can you just take the coffee and say this is good based only on the Q grader qualifications, or does the experience affect it for you too?
yeah. um, that's a good question. No, I definitely believe that the experience is what it's all about. But as a business, that's not what I'm delivering,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I'm tasting coffee for work or to share with a client, it's not to see if I enjoy it, right? Or it's not for me to enjoy. That's for sure. If I do, that's a treat. But but when I'm drinking coffee for fun, like on the weekend, right? Then yeah, it's much more than just coffee. And the coffees that I keep at home, I actually keep a couple of different profiles at home, so that I can pair them with different things, right? So I compare the chocolatey coffee with my pancake, and I can pair the Ethiopian coffee usually on its own, right, where it's nothing else to kind of hide the flavor of it. So that is something that I think a lot of coffee people miss, actually, is the pairing element. Um, right, like even sommeliers in wine, they don't grade the wine, they don't score the wine or give points to the wine. That's not what a sommelier does. Even though a lot of people compare the Q grader to sommelier, that's not what they do. They pair wine, right? They pair flavor profiles. So, and I think that gets missed a lot and overlooked. Um,
Well, it's because
that
we
goes into
focus so
food.
much on the training that they go through to get to that point where they can do the pairing. To get there, we only focus on, as the outsiders or people who've watched one of those movies like Soma or whatever, or Psalm or whatever. Uh, oh, they can identify all these characteristics and all these very finite details, as opposed to the overarching. This is the profile, and if I blend it with dark chocolate or grapes or whatever.
Right.
Uh, Although it's kind of up to drink wine and also eat grapes simultaneously. Is it? I don't know. Like it's kind of like a weird. Oh, look at this grape. This could have been you. But you didn't quite make it. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think that if you want to make a really good pairing, then you need to understand the flavors, right? The more you understand the flavors and how flavors work together, the better the pairing you can make. So that's something that kind of came to me from coffee and going through the Q Grader program. I I came out with a much better appreciation of food and other drink pairings, right? So I'm lucky. My wife went to culinary school. She works in coffee now, but we like our Sundays. We set up a whole day of pairings.
Oh
Like
wow!
we actually plan out 5 to 8 courses throughout the day,
Wow!
and
How do I get
we
invited to
like
your house?
Sundays or maximum of 2.
That's a good policy.
But yeah, I mean, we do have some friends over occasionally for events. I call it an event, but we're just hanging out. But we turn cooking and eating into part of the hangout. So
Sure.
we're just kind of constantly cooking, eating, cleaning up, cooking, eating, cleaning up, and of course drinking. With each course, starting with coffee, ending with something stronger. But the paw on the mic is a good clip.
Yeah, it's going to be great. He's telling me that I'm done now.
Oh, okay.
I think he's like, I'm done with my nap, or I got to go turn his heating pad on. Spoiled little bastard. I love that though. It's like a salon. It's I think something that's missed. We're so focused on our own things, and it's so easy to be entertained. There's something missed when you don't get groups of people together. We were talking kind of before. I moved to a place that, politically speaking, is mixed 50-50. And all the people that live here, for the last so many years, they kind of have to get along because your neighbor probably doesn't have the same opinion as you. And I find a lot of value in that. As exhausting as, our political situation has been. But it reminds me of when we first moved to San Diego. My wife and I would invite strangers that we had met, in our wherever at our job or at a restaurant or wherever that seemed interesting or different over for brunch. And we'd have this big brunch outside. And you could bring something or not. And it would just be a chance for like people that we kind of knew somehow, but didn't know the other 6 or 7 people at the table to start just talking.
Oh
And we
wow.
usually themed it, something goofy. And that's something that is easy to get away from. Like it's a lot of effort and work to, be social in that way. For me anyways, I'm not necessarily instinctively that, especially on your day off. But what I always found is even now, 10 years later, I can think back on some of those meetups and be like, oh, this was the person who had this idea that changed the way I thought about
Yeah.
whatever's happening today. And it's how I feel about good books. Good books are kind of like that too, where they put something in your brain that comes out in your life later. And you're like, oh yeah, I remember. This
Right.
is why I feel that way.
Right.
Uh,
That's cool. That makes me think of one of our first conversations was, how I got into this and why I stuck with it. And, being exposed to the diversity of people involved in
mhm.
coffee sourcing, right? So I'm talking to people in Africa, Asia, South America, Central America. Everyone has different languages, different religions, different culture, right? So it's definitely constantly challenging what I believe.
Sure.
Um, but
Well,
to
that's
your point, I think we would really like to get a supper club or some sort of event to host people and kind of share what we've been learning about food and pairings and get
uh,
something like that here.
I think we just came up with an idea for a meetup in the spring. Supper club.
Yeah.
Let's do
Yeah.
this. My schedule is open. I have
How
no.
long are you here in
Uh, oh, when I fly down,
uh-huh. You
about
said Tuesday?
16 hours.
No, in April.
Oh, in April, I'll get there like Monday or Tuesday and be there until Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a whole week for me. For the world of coffee, which I'm teaching myself to say instead of expo.
Everyone in emails is saying WOC/SCA.
Yeah. Or I have said and have found myself typing out World of Coffee Expo and then like highlighting Expo and deleting it because it's like, no,
Yeah.
that's not it. Jared, I just appreciate you always. I hope we keep talking here for another minute, but for everyone listening, Jared Hales of Hacea Coffee Source. I'm gonna cut and splice that into every little clip I make so they know. Uh, and thanks for helping us get coffee smarter as always.
Anytime, Ryan.
The way we got Roastar started was looking at and discovering who coffee roasters were and what their problems were.
You're going to get unmatched, legendary customer experience here from start to finish.
Roastar has evolved a ton over the last few years. We've invested in new equipment and technologies. We have really put a lot of effort into continuous improvement out on the shop floor.
What I'm most proud of with Roastar is I love how they seek cutting-edge technology.
We also make things that are really cool for really cool customers too.
We're really interested in getting to know our customer and discovering what we can do to help them out.
Yeah, not too bad. Go Brewers.